Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sailing fans of all ages, Jim here with Captain Jack Sailing. It's July 3rd, 2026. I'm on my beautiful little sailboat, Galadriel, whom I love a great deal. I love this boat. I haven't been out sailing yet this season, which makes me sad a little bit, but you know what? Sometimes life interferes with happiness. That sounded bad. I'm really happy, but the reason is going to be the name of this video. There's a lot of people who don't know the real reasons, and they have assumed certain things, and they will always assume things. And you know, a long time ago, I discovered that other people's opinions of me are really none of my business, and I just really don't worry about anybody other than my immediate family as far as what they think of me or what they think of the things I do. So, as you guys all know, all four of you that'll probably watch this video anyway, I jumped on I took a leap of faith, okay? I had cancer in 2020. That's all kind of well documented, well known. Prostate cancer, had a surgery, they took care of it. I've been clean for the whole time since, so I'm happy. Boom, great. Well, that made me realize that I didn't want to die the day that I worked. Oh, Raylan's vacuuming. That's nice. He's doing a lot of work in the boat. He loves being on the boat. Just doesn't love sailing the boat. We got to get that part figured out. So, anyway, so a person that I worked with actually passed away, like at work. Basically, he was sick. He came to work and left in an ambulance and went straight from the hospital to the morgue. So I didn't want that to happen. I figured, geez, this cancer is a real wake-up call. So I put everything I owned in a Grand Caravan, 2006 Grand Caravan with over 350,000 miles on it. Took a giant leap of faith, and I drove out east. I went to Bangor, Maine. I called on maybe 8 or 10 boats between Boston and Maine, and they were all sold, and nobody had anything that was, it was all posted still on the internet, but it wasn't for sale anymore. They were gone. So I put on Facebook that I was frustrated, and that people, if they have a boat for sale, when they sell it, they should take it off of the posting. I think that's logical. That makes sense. That's kind of Minnesota logic, maybe. But you never know. These people out there, they didn't do that. So I posted on Facebook that I was frustrated, and a friend of mine messaged me, Jim, you're wasting your time up there. Get down to Florida. There's 1 million boats for sale down here. So away we went. We drove a van that didn't have a cooling fan. We didn't know this, that the cooling fan didn't work. Through New York City, down the New Jersey Turnpike, through North Carolina, on the Beltway, around Baltimore. I mean, we were on all the big bad roads. I heard that only Atlanta is worse than the roads that we drove on. In a car that, if we ever had to get in stop and go traffic, would just overheat. So yeah, that was fun. We had a couple of times we ended up on the side of the road in New York City with the car shut off, just cooling down so that it wouldn't overheat and melt the motor down. So lots of fun stories there. You guys can contact me directly if you want me to do a video on all the side tracks on the way down there. But long story short, we made it all the way down to Fort Myers, Florida, where our good friend let us stay with her. She had a little trailer house and was living in a trailer court that was full of amazing people, just the best people in the world. And we started looking for a boat. Well, actually, the day after we got there, I went out and tested the cooling fan on the car and found out it was stuck completely. There's 2 fans, they were both just froze up, would not spin at all. So I went to Pep Boys and I bought a new cooling fan for the car. So we had a reliable car. Still had a little bit of a wobble in the front end. I always thought something was just worn out, Turns out one of the tires had a bulge in it, and every time we would drive, it would thump, 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 thump when we stopped. It was funny. Another story, another time. So, here's where a lot of you guys catch up. This is where we went and looked at boats. We looked at a Hunter. We looked at it's just a bunch of different boats. And we finally settled on that Catalina 36. Stunning boat. Absolutely perfect. Was not set up for cruising. So maybe it wasn't the best choice, but the price was right. I got the boat for an immaculate price, for a very good price. The boat was worth a lot more than I paid for it. The lady that sold it to me, her name was Pam. She's fantastic, an amazing person. She was the best. She let us stay in her yard, move aboard in the yard because the trailer court where my friend lived had rules about people coming and staying there for more than a certain amount of days and threatened to evict her, which I thought was kind of stupid, but what do you do? What do you do? So we asked Pam if we could move onto the boat. We moved onto the boat, started working on it, getting it ready to live on. Well, 6 days after we moved onto it, Hurricane Ian came. Hurricane Ian, the boat was in Port Charlotte, so like 18 miles from Fort Myers. Hurricane Ian came and just blasted Fort Myers, just completely screwed it up. I put a video out that showed us coming back into Port Charlotte, and it was pretty trash too. But that being said, we left the boat when this hurricane when they said it was coming right at us, and we went up to our friend Don and Trevor's up in Georgia. And then for about 3 or 4 days, we didn't know if we had just taken this large chunk of our cash and just flushed it down the toilet. If that was the case, we would have just got in the van and drove back north, back to Minnesota. But, we got a text from the neighbor who said, "Hey, she's still where you left her." I said, "That's fantastic." Again, a lot of this is documented in my YouTube channel that you guys are watching now. So that was in September, I believe, maybe October, something like that. We put on our solar, we put on a shade to be able to be in the boat in the shade because it was hot. And we decided that, I think it was about February, maybe late January, that Pam said, "Hey, Jim, thanks." Oh, by the way, I helped clean up after Hurricane Ian. I helped the neighbors and I helped Pam, and I got her yard all straightened out. And, without the appropriate tools, I didn't have a chainsaw. I just had a little reciprocating saw, my DeWalt stuff, cleaned up. And then we stayed there and we proceeded to refit the boat, try to get the boat ready to go. Now, the boat was an awesome boat, but it had not been used for cruising since the 90s. This is 2022. So, it needed batteries. It needed, actually, the charging system in it was completely shot. So, all this stuff was stuff that I hadn't really budgeted for. So our costs started going up. And then, of course, the feds decided that at tax time that, oh, you're breaking the rules. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. So therefore, you got to pay $10,000 in taxes. So, that's beautiful. So we had to cash out a little more and use that to pay the taxes. And we knew that was cutting our trip short. Originally, I had hoped to get 5 years cruising in. Okay. Now, if I had found a different boat that was a little more prepared, I would have spent more money to get it, and, I probably wouldn't have made it any longer than I did. So I started fixing systems. I got where our solar system was charging our batteries up real nice. I bought new lead acid batteries, which I absolutely hated because you can only use about 20% of them before they're considered dead, and then they don't, they're just not that great. So I bought some lithium iron phosphate batteries off Amazon. Fantastic creatures, absolutely beautiful. I also put a new charge system in, a new Renogy charge inverter charger in. That was It was a lot of money, so more money, more money, more money. But finally, we were out in the harbor and we were self-sufficient. The only thing we didn't have was a dinghy. Then my brother, my best friend down there, Justin, said, your dinghy leaks real bad, Jim, and the motor doesn't run great. So here's a dinghy, $100 and it's yours. So I paid him $100. I got this nice fiberglass bottom dinghy. It leaked a little bit of air, but not too bad. So, and the 5-horse motor that I had gotten with that boat, it just was nickel and diming me. It was a 2-stroke. It didn't like to run. I have a video on here where I'm repairing the carburetor, and that was about the 15th time I'd taken it apart and put it all back together. The thing was, I could disassemble it and reassemble it with my eyes closed just about. So I went and I bought a little Tohatsu 6-horse motor and used that on the back of the dinghy. Never had another bit of trouble. I did spin the prop on it once, but that was easy fix. I think I have a video of me fixing that too. Anywho, so this time now we are April, May-ish. Sissy's was talking about not wanting to spend the summer in Florida because it gets so darn hot, and that's understandable. And she's at the age where she has hot flashes, and she didn't enjoy the heat as much as I did, I guess. And I probably didn't enjoy that heat all that much either, but it was only too hot one day for me. It was 112 and there was no wind, and that sucked. But we decided we were gonna take a trip, go down around the Keys, come back up the East Coast, and take the Intercoastal Waterway all the way up. I wanted to get to Martha's Vineyard and watch the millionaires mow the billionaires' yards. That was my goal. I felt a little short. So on Father's Day, the weather was a little rough in the morning, so we waited until about 11 because it was predicted to settle down at about 1 in the afternoon, and we jumped out onto the Gulf and we started heading south. Well, we were in big waves. We were in rain, we were in wind, and I kept thinking it's going to settle. The forecast called for settling it, the weather to settle down, and to be honest, the weather never settled down. It probably got worse. So we turned around, we went back. We were in Fort Myers at that time, and we were anchored up behind the Pink Shell. I'm pretty sure I have a video of us in there too, but we went back in there, and the next morning it was beautiful, just like it is right now. There was no real wind. It was just gorgeous. And I asked Sissy, do you want to go head south again? We had provisions. We were all ready. We had enough fuel. We were good to go. I asked her, do you want to go south and continue on our way, or do you want to go back up to Pelican Bay and just chill? And she's like, I think we need to kind of gather ourselves. So we went up to Pelican Bay and chill. I sent a message off at that time to my friend Mike, who owns the used boat parts store there, and asked if he wanted some part-time help. And he said, yeah, I could really use some. So that's when I got that job, which we've talked about on the channel a bunch. And I think that was the day Sissy kind of decided that she was about done on the boat. But she still loved being on the boat. She would spend, her record, I think, is 36 days without touching land, something like that. It was a long time, over a month. So that's when I was still making plans to go and cross the Gulf Stream and go to the Bahamas. I wanted to get to the Bahamas just because I wanted to get somewhere where the water was really beautiful and the weather was great. And there's things on my list that I still want to see that are in the Bahamas. I want to see Pig Bay, and I want to see, the swimming pigs. I want to see, but the Bahamas, they're beautiful. They're fantastic. Okay, so I went and started working. I started making money and started to try and finish the boat. The only thing we really needed was the autopilot. And I came home from work and I said, hey, Sissy, West Marine's got a sale on this autopilot. It's a little undersized, but I think it'll work, on the boat. And she's like, Jim, the level we set when we left for the money, we're there. it's time to put the boat on the market and head back home. And I'm thinking, God, it's going to take months to sell. This is not something you just do on a knee jerk. And I didn't want to give it up. I'll be honest. I was upset. And then after taking a little time to reflect, I went back in. I said, you know what, Sissy? You told me when we got to this point of how much money we have left that we'd have to do it. And that was what the number we agreed on. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't very damn much money left. We were pretty broke. So this is probably July, August in Florida, so it's hot. I'm riding a bicycle 5 miles to work a couple of days a week. It was warm. It was really warm, but it was still, I was willing to do it. I was willing to do all that. But we were one fix away from the dream becoming a little more of a reality. I mean, I really did get to live my dream. So, but another thing was, hey, Raylan, stick your head up. This little dude right here was missing us something fierce. He was having problems dealing with school and us not being there. He's been raised in the same house with us his whole life. And so I never realized how much of an effect it would have on him to have us not home. So my granddaughter Kira, of course, she was sad too that we were gone, and she was playing volleyball. We were missing that. So I went to the boat broker to sell my dream. And they said, well, we got to get it to a dock. We got to get all your stuff off of it so we can show it and then we can sell it. That's just how it works. You can't sell it when you're living on it. And I was like, oh. So this one guy told me that, he had a dock, but it was way up a river. It's about probably an hour and a half, 2 hour motor up the canals to get to this house. And then it was in a part of town where you couldn't really leave your stuff anywhere except for locked up, So I wasn't real big on that. I stopped over at my friend's place, the store happened to be in the same, Punta Gorda Farmers Market, or Punta Gorda Fish Market place. This guy owned a few stores in there. His name's Bobby. I said, Bobby, you said you were looking at that boat when I bought it, and I have to sell. I said, we have to go. We're to the point of money that we don't have, that we have to go home. And he's like, oh, Jim, if you would, if this was 1 year from now, you wouldn't walk out here without a check. And I said, okay, well, I wanted to offer it to you before I put it on the market. So the next day I had rode my bike to work. I'm thinking, how am I going to sell this boat? How am I going to not completely lose my butt? Other boats that were of that caliber that had that amount of cruising stuff on it were going for 60, 70,000. And I mean, I didn't have that much into it. I'm going to guess 50,000 into it. That's a guess. That's not including my labor at all, because my labor I don't count, right? So I was at work and my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and I looked at it and it was from Bobby. Bobby's like, hey, Jim, how much are you going to sell the boat for? And I said, well, I think I was going to put it on the market for 70, hoping to get 55 or 60. And he's like, well, how much would you sell it to me for? I said, Bobby, let me call Sissy and ask her how much we'd sell it to you for. So I called her and she said, we'd sell it to him for 45 because we know he loves it. Because he told me